Have you ever noticed how some older adults seem to radiate warmth and contentment, while others appear trapped in a cycle of complaint and isolation? What makes the difference? Today we're going to explore 9 subtle habits that creep into our lives as we age, often without us even realizing it. These aren't character flaws or moral failings. They're natural human responses to the challenges that come with getting older. But here's the important part. Recognizing these patterns gives us the power to change them, no matter our age. Let's start with George's story. At 84, George had been a gentle, easygoing man for most of his life. But over the past few years, something shifted. He found himself commenting on everything his daughter cooked, criticizing how his grandson dressed, pointing out errors in the newspaper, and correcting his friends during card games. His family started visiting less often. His phone rang less frequently. George couldn't understand why people seemed to be pulling away from him. This brings us to the first habit, becoming overly critical. As we age, we often feel like the world is changing too fast, leaving us behind. We may feel we're losing control over our bodies, our independence, or our place in society. Criticism becomes a way to assert ourselves, to feel like we still matter, like our opinions still count. But here's what George didn't realize. Every criticism, however small, builds a wall between us and the people we love. Instead of bringing respect, it brings distance. The solution isn't complicated, but it does require awareness. Before you speak a critical thought, pause for just 3 seconds. Ask yourself, is this observation necessary? Is it kind? Will it build connection or create distance? Try replacing one critical comment each day with an expression of gratitude or curiosity. Instead of saying the soup is too salty, say you appreciate that someone took the time to cook for you. Instead of correcting a story you've heard before, let the person enjoy telling it. These small shifts can transform your relationships. Now let's talk about Helen, who is 79. She used to be the life of her community center, always signing up for activities, meeting friends for lunch, attending book club meetings. But gradually, she started declining invitations. Her knees hurt. She felt tired. She worried about not hearing conversations properly. She became self-conscious about the extra weight she'd gained. One by one, the invitations stopped coming. Helen spent most days alone in her apartment, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being forgotten. This is the second habit, withdrawing from social invitations. It's perhaps the most dangerous habit on our list because it directly impacts both mental and physical health. Research shows that social isolation in older adults is as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. When we withdraw, we don't just miss activities. We miss the laughter, the sense of belonging, the reminder that we matter to others. The path back doesn't require grand gestures. Start with one small social contact this week. Make a phone call to someone you've been thinking about. Say yes to one invitation, even if you only stay for 30 minutes. Show up, imperfect. Show up with your aching knees and your hearing difficulties and your changed body. The people who truly care about you want your presence, not your perfection. And here's something beautiful that happens when you push through that initial resistance. Energy often follows action, not the other way around. You might arrive at that lunch feeling reluctant, but leave feeling more alive than you have in months. Arthur's situation was different, but equally telling. At 81, after his wife of 53 years passed away, Arthur stopped caring about how he looked. He wore the same comfortable pants every day, rarely shaved, and couldn't remember the last time he'd gotten a haircut. When he caught his reflection in the mirror, he barely recognized himself, and he felt a deep sense of sadness he couldn't quite name. This third habit, neglecting personal appearance, isn't about vanity. It's about self-respect and the powerful connection between how we present ourselves and how we feel inside. When we stop caring for our appearance, we're often sending ourselves a message that we don't matter anymore. And our minds believe what we tell them. The remedy is gentler than you might think. You don't need a complete makeover. Pick one small self-care action for tomorrow. Lay out clean clothes the night before. Schedule a haircut. Shave or apply a bit of makeup if that's what you used to enjoy. These tiny acts of self-care send a message to your brain that you're worth the effort. They boost energy, lift mood, and often lead to increased social engagement. When Arthur finally went to the barber and bought 2 new shirts, he noticed he stood a little taller. That small shift made him more likely to accept his neighbor's invitation for coffee. Mildred, at 80 years old, had a different burden. She carried decades of resentments like stones in her pockets. Her sister, who borrowed money 30 years ago and never repaid it. The neighbor who made a thoughtless comment at her husband's funeral. The friend who forgot her birthday. Mildred replayed these hurts in her mind constantly, and she brought them up in conversations. Her relationships became strained because nobody knew when an innocent comment might trigger a recitation of past wrongs. This fourth habit, clinging to old grievances, is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. The person who hurt you years ago has likely moved on or forgotten the incident entirely, but you're still carrying the weight. Research shows that holding on to anger and resentment increases stress hormones, raises blood pressure, and weakens the immune system. The person you're hurting most is yourself. Letting go doesn't mean what happened was acceptable. It doesn't require reconciliation or even communication with the person who hurt you. It simply means you're choosing freedom over chains. Start small. Pick one minor grievance and consciously decide to release it. You might write a letter you'll never send, expressing everything you feel, then burning it as a symbolic release. Or you might simply tell yourself, "That happened, it hurt, and I'm choosing to put it down now." Every time the thought returns, acknowledge it and gently redirect your mind to something in the present moment. This practice of letting go creates space for peace, for new positive memories, for relationships that aren't shadowed by the past. Eleanor's challenge at 82 was visible in every room of her house. She kept everything, every magazine, every plastic container, every piece of clothing her children wore decades ago, every gift she'd ever received. She explained that she grew up during hard times when you never knew what you might need. But the clutter had become dangerous. Pathways through her home were narrow. She'd tripped twice. Her daughter worried constantly but didn't know how to help. This fifth habit, hoarding unnecessary items, often stems from past scarcity or represents an attempt to hold on to memories and people we've lost. But excessive clutter creates stress, makes homes unsafe, and ironically makes it harder to find and enjoy the things that truly matter. Every item we own requires a small amount of mental energy to maintain, organize, and think about. When we're surrounded by hundreds of unnecessary items, that energy drain becomes significant. The solution requires compassion, not judgment. If this habit resonates with you, start with one small drawer or one shelf. Ask yourself with each item, have I used this in the past year? Does it serve a purpose or bring genuine joy? If not, can I let someone else benefit from it? Work in 15-minute sessions so it doesn't feel overwhelming. Consider asking a trusted friend or family member to help, not to pressure you, but to provide support and perspective. As you clear space, notice how the physical openness creates mental and emotional openness too. Your home becomes a place of calm rather than stress. Martin, 79, had legitimate health challenges. His arthritis caused daily discomfort. His diabetes required careful management. But somewhere along the line, his health conditions became his primary topic of conversation. Every phone call began with an organ recital. Every social gathering turned into a comparison of medications and doctor visits. Martin's friends started calling less often. They felt drained after conversations with him, guilty for feeling that way, but drained nonetheless. This sixth habit, dwelling on health complaints, is particularly tricky because health concerns are real and deserve attention. The key is balance. When health discussions dominate every conversation, we become defined by our limitations rather than our whole selves. People start avoiding us not because they don't care, but because they feel helpless to help and exhausted by the negativity. Try this approach. Give yourself permission to discuss health matters for a set portion of any conversation, perhaps the first 5 minutes. Then consciously shift to other topics. Ask about the other person's life. Share something you read, watched, or thought about. Maintain regular appointments with healthcare providers so you can address concerns appropriately rather than using social situations as doctor visits. Remember that you are so much more than your physical challenges. You have a lifetime of experiences, wisdom, humor, and perspective to share. When you lead with those aspects of yourself, people are naturally drawn to spend time with you. Alan, 83, was proud that he'd never owned a smartphone or learned to use a computer. He saw it as a sign of independence, of not needing modern conveniences. But he also missed seeing photos of his great-grandchildren that the family shared online. He couldn't join video calls during holidays. He struggled to manage basic tasks that had moved online, from paying bills to scheduling appointments. His world was shrinking, and technology avoidance was a significant factor. This seventh habit, avoiding new technology, often comes from a combination of intimidation and principle. We tell ourselves we don't need it, that we manage fine without it for decades. But technology isn't just about convenience anymore. It's become the primary way many families share information, stay connected, and organize activities. When we refuse to learn even basic technological skills, we cut ourselves off from rich sources of connection and information. You don't need to become an expert. Choose one technology skill that would meaningfully improve your life. Maybe it's learning to video call with grandchildren. Maybe it's reading e-books so you can adjust the text size. Maybe it's using a tablet to look up recipes or watch videos about your hobbies. Ask someone patient to teach you, and give yourself permission to ask the same questions multiple times. Write down the steps if that helps. Start with just 10 minutes of practice a few times a week. The confidence you gain from mastering even one new skill often spills over into other areas of life. You feel more capable, more connected, more engaged with the world. Joanne, 81, had the same routine every single day. Same breakfast at the same time, same television shows, same walk to the same park bench, same dinner, same bedtime. When her daughter suggested trying a new restaurant or attending a community event, Joanne became anxious and irritable. She insisted she liked her routine, but her daughter noticed that Joanne seemed less vibrant, less joyful, almost as if she were sleepwalking through her days. This eighth habit, fearing change and clinging rigidly to routines, is an understandable response to a world that feels increasingly unfamiliar. Routines provide comfort and a sense of control. But when routines become rigid, when we refuse any deviation or new experience, life becomes smaller and smaller. Our brains need novelty and challenge to stay flexible and healthy. Our spirits need surprise and discovery to feel alive. The goal isn't to abandon all routine. Healthy routines around sleep, meals, and exercise are beneficial. But try introducing one small change each week. Take a different route on your daily walk. Try one new food. Listen to music from a genre you've never explored. Call someone you haven't spoken with in years. These tiny variations keep your brain engaged and your life interesting. They also make you more adaptable if bigger changes become necessary. And here's a wonderful secret. Some of life's greatest joys come from unexpected moments, from saying yes when your first instinct is to say no. Finally, let's talk about Ruth, 85, who prided herself on being strong and independent. When her husband died, she told everyone she was fine. She kept busy, stayed active, maintained her home, but she never talked about her grief, her loneliness, her fear of the future. She never cried in front of others. She never asked for emotional support. Gradually, she became irritable and distant. She had trouble sleeping. Her joy seemed to have evaporated even though she was still going through all the motions of daily life. This ninth habit, ignoring emotional needs, might be the most damaging of all. Many people in older generations were taught that emotional vulnerability is weakness, that you should handle your problems privately, that expressing feelings burdens others. But suppressing emotions doesn't make them disappear. It just drives them underground, where they cause anxiety, depression, physical illness, and relationship problems. Your emotional needs are as real and important as your physical needs. Grief deserves to be felt and expressed. Loneliness deserves to be acknowledged and addressed. Fear and uncertainty deserve to be spoken and shared. This doesn't mean overwhelming everyone with unfiltered emotion. It means finding appropriate outlets. A trusted friend who will truly listen, a counselor or therapist who specializes in issues facing older adults, a support group of people going through similar experiences, or even a journal where you write your uncensored thoughts and feelings. When Ruth finally broke down and cried with her daughter, admitting how lost she felt without her husband, something shifted. The pretense of being fine was exhausting. Being honest was a relief. Her daughter felt closer to her than she had in years. Ruth started attending a grief support group and discovered she wasn't alone in her feelings. Acknowledging her emotional needs didn't make her weak. It made her human, relatable, and, ultimately, it helped her heal. So here we have 9 habits that commonly develop as we age: becoming overly critical, withdrawing from social invitations, neglecting personal appearance, clinging to old grievances, hoarding unnecessary items, dwelling on health complaints, avoiding new technology, fearing change, and ignoring emotional needs. If you recognized yourself in one or more of these patterns, you're not alone, and you're not broken. These are natural human responses to the challenges of aging. The beautiful truth is this: awareness is the first step toward change, and change is possible at any age. You don't need to tackle all 9 habits at once. Choose the one that resonated most strongly with you. Commit to one small action this week, just one. Maybe it's accepting a social invitation you would normally decline. Maybe it's letting go of one old resentment. Maybe it's scheduling that overdue haircut or learning to send a text message. Small changes create ripple effects. When you show up for that lunch despite your reluctance, you might laugh in a way you haven't in months, which lifts your mood, which makes you more likely to take care of your appearance, which increases your confidence, which helps you feel more open to trying something new. One positive action leads to another. Your later years can be a time of connection, growth, and meaning. They can be years where you deepen relationships, try new things, express yourself authentically, and find joy in unexpected places. But that kind of aging requires awareness and intention. It requires being honest about the habits that are holding you back, and gentle with yourself as you work to change them. If this video resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone who might benefit from this message. Leave a comment telling me which habit you recognize most in yourself or in someone you care about. Subscribe to this channel if you want more content focused on healthy, meaningful aging. And most importantly, choose one small action you'll take this week to move toward a more connected, joyful life. You deserve that. No matter your age, no matter your circumstances, you deserve connection, joy, and peace. The first step begins today.